I didn't get a train ticket for National Day holiday. So I signed up for a shopping tour group to my hometown and planned to sneak away as soon as I reached the destination. But the female tour guide threatened us that if anyone left the group midway, they would surely die. I didn't take it seriously. After successfully sneaking away, the police actually came to my door. It turned out that all the passengers on the bus had died mysteriously, and I became a suspect. After a night of bumpy ride and a journey of more than 1.0 kilometers, the tourist bus finally arrived in Mengai City at noon on October 1. There was still more than half an hour's drive to the urban area. I simply put on my headphones and listened to music. A man's profile was reflected on the window glass. Although it was blurry, one could still see that the lines of his face were very smooth, with a high nose, thin lips, thick eyebrows and deep eyes. It was the outline of a handsome man. I subconsciously got up and looked back. Sitting behind me was a young man in his 20s. He was reading a book, probably noticing me looking at him. He smiled at me. This smile narrowed the distance. I also smiled back and quickly thought of a topic in my mind. I didn't see you in the past hours on the bus. I thought I was the only young one. As someone who can spot handsome guys within a radius of 5 kilometers, I didn't even notice that there was a handsome guy sitting right behind me. You just didn't notice. The handsome guy smiled. In an instant, I felt like being in the spring breeze. But in an instant, I deeply felt it was a pity. I didn't find this handsome guy earlier. In a while, when we reach the urban area, I will sneak away. After a few exchanges, I learned that this handsome guy was called Kobe. He had resigned some time ago and hadn't found a job yet. So he joined this tour group to relax. I was just about to add Kobe's WeChat, when the female tour guide's and Imly voice rang out. Attention, all tourists. We are a shopping tour group. Now we have arrived at the first destination, Chuncheon Jade City. If anyone leaves the group midway, they will surely die. The female tour guide threatened with a loudspeaker, and her fierce eyes looked from the first row of the bus all the way to the end. I snorted in my heart. Forcing people to shop and actually using death threats. I'm not scared. When I take a video, she won't be able to be a tour guide anymore. Besides, now that I'm on my home turf, am I still afraid of you? Get off now. Gather here in an hour and go to the second destination. The female tour guide glared, as if everyone owed her 2 million. I didn't care about the female tour guide's threat. I got up in my backpack. After getting off, I walked straight towards the female tour guide. Where is the ladies' restroom? I need to use the toilet. Turn left ahead. The female tour guide looked at the bag on my back with eyes and her eyes rolled twice. Put your bag on the bus when you go to the toilet. I have valuables in my bag. If I leave it on the bus and it gets lost, will you compensate me? One sentence left the female tour guide speechless. Seeing that Kobe also got off the bus, I winked at him in motion for him to talk aside. I didn't tell you. I am from Mengai. Now I'm going home. Are you leaving the group? Kobe was shocked. In the sunlight, his pupils were slightly whitish and quite transparent. I joined the tour group because I couldn't get a train ticket. Do I have to continue traveling with them instead of going home? I am even more familiar with the scenery of Mengai City than the female tour guide. I can rattle off every scenic spot even with my eyes closed. This is a shopping group. If you don't buy anything, this trip probably won't be pleasant. If you really want to travel, I can be your tour guide. Kobe is really to my taste. Although he is unemployed, I am still a student and not at the stage of talking about material things. Students talk about love, not money. So I wanted to persuade Kobe to leave the group too. Forget it. Leaving the group is not good. I was embarrassed by what he said. In his heart, I must be a petty person who loves taking advantage. If you want to travel, why did you sign up for such a low-cost shopping group? Just sign up for a pure play group. The cost might be less than this one. Kobe looked at me and was silent. Seeing that he was speechless, I didn't want to say anything more. People with different ways don't work together. I didn't even ask for his WeChat. After saying goodbye, I sneaked away. On the road, I quickly stopped a taxi. But within a few minutes after getting in the car, my phone rang. It was the female tour guide calling. I hung up directly. After a while, my phone beeped and I received a text message. I clicked on it, and it read, "I warned you not to leave the group. Otherwise, you will surely die. If you want to survive, come back quickly." Immediately, I blacklisted the female tour guide's phone number. This kind of low-cost shopping group is cheating tourists money. Leaving the group is equivalent to punishing the cheating travel agency. This is doing justice for heaven and I don't feel guilty at all. When I got home, I found that my parents were not at home. They were probably at my uncle's house. My mother can't be separated from her natal family. One day apart feels like 3 autumns. I don't know if her sister-in-law dislikes her. I found clean clothes and went to the bathroom to take a shower. It's already October, and it's still so hot. It won't cool down without rain. After taking a beautiful 2-hour bath, I came out of the bathroom. Looking at my phone, there were several missed calls. And the calls were also displayed as from a certain police station. I was greatly shocked. Why did the police call me? I hesitated whether to call back. First, there was a knock on the door. At first, I thought it was my parents coming back. But then I thought that they had keys and didn't need to knock. Looking through the peephole, I saw 3 policemen in uniforms standing outside the door. I was so scared that I quickly opened the door. "Are you Navy?" "We are criminal policemen from the Changcheng District Public Security Bureau." I looked at the 3 unexpected guests. "Yes, what's the matter?" "Navy. Did you sign up for a tour group? And it arrived today?" Instantly, I was shocked in my heart. But immediately anger rushed straight to the top of my head. I left the group. That female tour guide actually called the police. This is really outrageous. Yes, what's wrong? Can't they charge me with a crime just because I left the group? I simply explained the reason why I left the group. Because I couldn't get a train ticket. I had to sign up for a tour group. If the travel agency thinks it's a loss, I can compensate them according to the train ticket price. The 3 policemen looked at each other and then at me. "Navy. It's not about money now. After you left, all the people in the tour group, including the driver and the tour guide, died." "What?" I was so shocked that I almost jumped up. It was too unexpected. I simply couldn't believe it. How did they die? What I could think of was a rear-end collision, or a bus catching fire spontaneously. The cause of death has not been found out yet. The policeman simply said 4 words. I was thinking about it when I suddenly understood. Could it be that the police think the deaths of the tourists are related to me? "You suspect that I killed them?" I couldn't help but feel angry. "Navy. Please come to the sub-bureau to assist in the investigation." At the sub-bureau, I was subjected to intensive questioning. But I answered every question reasonably and convincingly. I didn't do such a thing. I have a clear conscience no matter what I say. Around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the police let me go back. In the car, I opened my phone and scrolled through videos. Something so big must be in the news online. Sure enough, after scrolling for a few minutes, I saw something about the tour group. It was said that after the tour group arrived at Chunxiang Jade City, they felt that the jade prices in Chunxiang Jade City were expensive and no tourists bought anything. The female tour guide was furious and scolded the tourists. Then there was an argument between the 2 sides. Somehow, someone shouted that they wanted to leave the group and not participate in the tour. Later, for an unknown reason, all the tourists on the bus died one after another. I looked at this account that reported the news. It was not an official account but a private one. When I clicked on the homepage, the IP address was not displayed. After scrolling through videos for another half an hour, strangely, I didn't see any more information about the bus. For such a major casualty incident, there is only one video posted by a private account. It's too strange. I had to find the video just now from my browsing history and look at it carefully. Suddenly, I remembered the threat of the female tour guide. She said that if one leaves the group, they will surely die. Could it be that because the tourists wanted to leave the group that they died? If it's really this curse, then after coming to my senses, I called my mother. Mom, come back quickly. I'm going to die. Hearing my crying tone, my mother was also scared and quickly asked what had happened. I couldn't explain clearly either. I just cried and asked her and my dad to come back quickly. 15 minutes later, my parents came back. Along with them were my uncle, aunt, cousin and cousin. I quickly told them about my strange experience. They just said that if you leave the group, you will die. But I really left the group. This shocked everyone. My cousin said that no wonder it felt chilly as soon as she came in. It must be that evil spirits followed to claim lives. My cousin was full of vigor. He punched the air vigorously. Evil spirit, come out. If you dare to scare my cousin, I will definitely destroy you. Before my cousin could finish speaking, my aunt covered his mouth, scolded him not to talk nonsense, and bowed to the air, saying that the child was ignorant and please don't take offense. My uncle frowned and said, "This may not be caused by ghosts. Maybe it was a mutual destruction due to the argument. Well, I know someone in the police station. I'll ask him to find out the situation. As long as it has nothing to do with Navy, there will be no problem. At present, there is no other way but to follow my uncle's idea." At night, I lay on the bed and scrolled through videos to see if there was any latest news. After a while, I scrolled to the video of the tour group posted by that private account that didn't show the IP. In the video, it was said that the travel agency where the accident happened put an unwritten rule that if a tourist leaves the group, they will die in vain. Therefore, every tour guide will repeatedly warn tourists not to leave the group. The video was just posted. There were no comments or likes yet. I quickly left a comment in the comment section and asked why there was such a rule. I thought the author wouldn't reply to me. Unexpectedly, I immediately received his reply. He said that a few years ago, a newly graduated male tour guide led a group for this travel agency. But when they reached the destination, all the tourists left the group. The travel agency asked the male tour guide to compensate for the loss himself. The male tour guide's family was very poor. In a moment of desperation, he committed suicide. He left a blood letter cursing that if a tourist leaves the group, they will surely die. At first, no one took it seriously. But gradually, several times it was found that tourists who left the group really died unfortunately. Only then did everyone believe it. Therefore, tourists are warned every time. It seemed that the author was an insider. I immediately replied that I had also left the group and happened to be in this tour group. I asked him if I would be cursed. But after I sent this reply, I waited for a long time and didn't get a reply from the video author. My dad was on the phone in the living room. His voice was very low. I couldn't help but go out and eavesdrop. As soon as he saw me, Dad motioned for me not to make a sound. Soon, Dad hung up the phone and looked very serious. "Dad. Who called?" "Your uncle called. Things may really be a bit troublesome." The police investigated the license plate number of the bus and found that this tourist bus had fallen into the Grand Canyon in the Wulyan Mountains on yesterday. That is, the morning of September 30. I was dumbfounded. What's going on? The forensic examiner conducted a preliminary autopsy on the bodies. All the deceased showed signs of drowning. I was so shocked that my eyes almost popped out. How could there be such a strange thing in the world? Currently, the Public Security Bureau is confirming the identities of the deceased with the travel agency to see if they are the tourists who fell into the Grand Canyon with the bus yesterday. I bit my lip tightly. As a future doctor and a top student at the medical college, I really can't believe that I took a bus all night with dead people. I don't want to believe that I can't distinguish between the dead and the living. I can guarantee that when I left the group, They were all lively and had better energy than me. Navy. Go to sleep quickly. Tomorrow your uncle said he will find someone to take a look at you. Probably you have provoked something. I slept in a daze. Half awake and half dreaming. When I got up in the morning, I was listless. As if I had been possessed. The expert invited by my uncle didn't come until the afternoon. My dad eagerly offered a cigarette. The expert didn't take the cigarette. He took a look at me and shook his head, saying that he couldn't handle this matter, and asked my dad to find someone else. My dad hurriedly stopped the expert, and said that any amount of money would do as long as he could save my life. The expert pushed my dad away, and said that half of my life had already been in the hands of King Yama. And the other half would be in these 2 days. Whoever helps in this matter will be unlucky. Maybe their own life will also be in danger. My uncle was immediately scared and didn't say a word. This is not his fault. He has a wife and children, and 2 elderly people to support. On that day, my parents went to the countryside. They heard that there was a blind spirit medium in the countryside who was very powerful. I stayed at home alone. As soon as it got dark, I closed all the doors and windows and played Buddhist scriptures on the computer. Lying on the bed and feeling bored, I could only pass the time by scrolling through videos. A message popped up. I clicked on it and it was actually a reply from the video author. The evil spirit claims lives. Only by fulfilling the wish of the evil spirit can it be resolved. Instantly, my eyes lit up. This makes sense. When I lived at my grandma's house when I was a child, if people in the village provoked dirty things and got seriously ill and couldn't be cured, they would find a medium to cross over and see what the other party needed. After satisfying the other party, basically the illness would be cured. What is the wish of the evil spirit? I sent it anxiously. Due to my shaking hand, I even typed the wrong word and typed, hungry ghost, instead of evil spirit. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the author's reply came. Come and find me now. I live in room 424 of Dongshan Hotel. I was stunned. It's very late now. Isn't it inconvenient? In my communication with the other party, I feel it's a man. Even if the other party is a woman, it's not suitable to go out so late. The evil spirit claiming lives won't care if it's late. The cold word sent over made me shiver all over. How about we meet in the lobby of Dongshan Hotel? Meeting in the lobby should be fine, even if the other party has ulterior motives. The other party sent an okay emoticon. We'll meet in half an hour. The distance from my home to Dongshan Hotel is not far. Half an hour is enough. I took off my skirt and changed into trousers. Then I took a taxi and rushed to Dongshan Hotel. However, the driver took the wrong road on the way, and was delayed for a few minutes. When I arrived, it was exactly half an hour. Not a minute more or less. I stood in front of the hotel and looked around. I saw a young man sitting on the sofa in the lobby. The man was reading a book seriously. The light outlined his side profile on the wall. Just looking at the shadow without seeing his face made people feel that he was very handsome. It was Kobe. When I heard that all the tourists on the bus had died, I was a little sad for his death for a few minutes. But I didn't expect that he was actually still alive. Kobe. When he saw me, Kobe's expression didn't change at all. Come to my room. Probably knowing it was Kobe. I didn't have the previous worry. Although Kobe was male, he was too thin. I felt that I could beat him. In addition, I had an indescribable feeling for him. Taking the elevator to the 4th floor, when I walked to the corner, I met a cleaning ant. The ant looked at me in confusion. Her lips moved but she didn't make a sound. I didn't pay attention either and silently followed behind Kobe. Room 424 was at the end of the 4th floor. There were 3 yellow talismans pasted on the door, which made me stunned. At this time, Kobe inserted the room card to open the door. I quickly followed him in. Kobe, how did you survive? I was very curious. All the tourists on the bus had died. How did Kobe escape unscathed? Because I found that all the tourists on the bus were dead. And then I quietly escaped. My heart was shaking. Originally, I didn't really believe that the tourists on the bus were dead. Now that Kobe also said so, I had to believe it. How did you know they were dead? As a medical student, I didn't see that the tourists were dead. Kobe actually saw it. Did you smell their corpse smell? I used my wild imagination. Kobe shook his head. He opened his phone. I saw his fingers constantly flipping. Then he pointed to a video and asked me to watch it. I took his phone. This video was released on the afternoon of September 30. It said that a tourist bus heading to Mengai City accidentally fell into the Grand Canyon at around 9:30 am on that day when passing through the Wulyan Mountains. Currently, the vehicle is being salvaged. At the latter part of the video were photos of the driver and the tour guide. I didn't remember the appearance of the driver. But when I saw the photo of the tour guide, I was stunned. It was exactly that female tour guide. Playing the video back carefully again, there were several familiar tourists in the video. Among them were a mother and daughter. They were exactly the tourists sitting opposite me at that time. Because both the mother and daughter were wearing hanfu, I was deeply impressed by them. I accidentally scrolled to this video while waiting for them on the bus and browsing videos. It's also my luck. Otherwise, I would definitely be in trouble. Kobe recounted his experience. I felt a great sense of empathy, and quickly told him everything about the police questioning me. They suspected that I was related to the deaths of the tourists and interrogated me as a suspect. Later, when they checked the license plate number and found that it was the tourist bus that fell into the canyon on the 30th, the tourists drowned. They found it unbelievable and let me go back. Kobe nodded. The police also came to me. They didn't suspect you, did they? What's the use of suspicion? We don't have the ability to pull the bus out of the canyon. I pinched my chin and repeatedly pondered over what Kobe said. Kobe, I don't quite understand. Why did you say in your video that the tourists and the female tour guide had an argument and wanted to leave the group? I wanted you to know about the existence of the curse of leaving the group. Otherwise, you wouldn't contact me. Kobe was really smart. He knew that I would contact the author because I was afraid of the curse of leaving the group. It would have been great if I had added your WeChat on the bus. I sighed. There were only 2 living people on the whole bus. The 2 of us happened to get on this bus full of dead people. Have you ever thought about the reason? Kobe stared at me deeply. What reason? It can't be that we look good and are easy to bully. I grabbed my hair. What Kobe said made us seem like people being dragged down by ghosts. I was already scared. And now I was even more scared. Ghosts won't harm people for no reason. Generally, there is a cause and effect with them. What cause and effect? I don't know at all. I was on the verge of crying. Did you sign up for the tour group departing on the 29th with this travel agency? Kobe suddenly approached. His enlarged face startled me. But reminded by Kobe, I also remembered. A few days ago, I couldn't book a train ticket online. So I wanted to take a low-cost tour group to go home. I searched for several low-cost tour groups. One of them was ridiculously low. They put out the slogan of traveling in Southwest China for 1 cent. Just the departure time was 1 day earlier than the school holiday. I thought it wouldn't be difficult to ask for a day off. I could just make up an excuse at that time. So I booked this tour group departing on the 29th. But later I learned that it was the birthday of a roommate in the dormitory on the 29th. She invited us to have a big meal at Heidai Lao. The whole dormitory had to attend. I couldn't refuse. After all, we had to maintain relationships in the dormitory. If everyone else went and I didn't go, wouldn't it be not giving face to my roommate? So I missed the departure on the 29th perfectly. Because it was a tour group for 1 cent. The price was too low. I was too lazy to cancel it. Instead, I directly booked 100 yuan tour group to travel in Southwest China departing on the 30th. I did sign up. But I was delayed by something and forgot to cancel. Kobe, what about you? Did you also sign up for the tour group on the 29th? Things are getting more and more bizarre. Could it be that the reason why I got on this bus full of dead people is related to my previous booking of the tour group on the 29th? I did sign up for the tour group departing on the 29th. But an important express delivery of mine was delayed by 1 day. So I missed it. Kobe missed it. I also missed it. Neither of us canceled the trip. And we both booked the tour group departing on the 30th without prior agreement. This is a coincidence. Or is it just a coincidence? The tourist bus departing from Mengai City on the 29th disappeared with all the people and the vehicle in the Grand Canyon around 9:30 am on the 30th. Then it appeared again with the vehicle and people in a big city 1,000 kilometers away at 5:30 p.m. on the 30th. Both Kobe and I got on this bus. The reason is obvious. So, Kobe, are you saying that we should have died in that accident? Kobe stared at me fixedly. The color of the pupil in his eyes became lighter and lighter. We booked the tour group departing on the 29th. Although we didn't go. Because we didn't cancel the trip. This behavior is also considered leaving the group. So, only you and I got on that ghost bus. Immediately, I became dejected and sat down on the sofa chair. They must take us away. I haven't graduated from college yet. I haven't been in love or married. I don't want to die. Maybe there is still room for maneuver. Have you forgotten the purpose of my asking you to come? Kobe reminded me. The purpose of my coming here was to find out the wish of the evil spirit. Kobe, aren't you going to tell me the wish of the evil spirit? What is the wish of the evil spirit? I don't know. If you don't know, why did you ask me to come to Dongshan Hotel? I was angry. I wasted most of the day. Although I don't know. I have a way to know. That's why I asked you to come. Instantly, I was overjoyed and hurriedly asked, what way? Invoke the pen fairy. Kobe stared at me. I also played invoking the pen fairy in college. But I thought it was quite fake. Of course. It could also be that I was not focused. It is said that when playing invoking the pen fairy, one needs to be focused and silently recite the pen fairy in one's heart and mind to invite it. Kobe and I sat on opposite sides of the table. There was a piece of paper and a pencil on the table. Kobe looked at me and asked, "Are you ready?" "Ready. Let's start." I nodded. Kobe stretched out his hand. I also stretched out my hand and held his hand. As soon as I touched Kobe's hand, I shivered from the cold. It felt like holding a piece of ice. Your hand is so cold. It's been like this since I was a child. I'm a cold-blooded animal. Kobe put the pencil into our clasped hands. At this moment, I suddenly felt a strong stickiness from the pencil, sticking my 5 fingers. Don't let go midway when invoking the pen fairy. You can let go only after the pen fairy returns to its place. I know. I still remember this rule. Okay. Let's start. We chanted together, pen fairy. Pen fairy. You are our past life. We are your next life. After chanting 3 times, the pen held in our hands suddenly moved by itself. I looked at Kobe. He was also looking at me. Somehow, I felt that it was Kobe's hand that was moving. You ask. When invoking the pen fairy in college before, I remember we also asked whether the pen fairy was a god or a ghost. But now I'm not in the mood to ask these. I might as well get straight to the point. Pen fairy. What is the cause of death of the tourists in the tour group? The pen drew on the paper. At first glance, it seemed like random scribbling, but gradually it drew a word. I read it softly. Immediately after, the pen drew quickly again. This time it drew a character curse. I was shocked. This curse should be the curse of leaving the group. Could it be that there was an argument on the bus and the tourists were so angry that they wanted to leave the group and were thus cursed to death? Pen fairy. Since I left the group, will I also be cursed and killed? The pen continued to draw and quickly drew a character. Yes. My heart was pounding wildly. The heart rate was probably over 200 beats per minute. Was it certain death? But I was not reconciled. Pen fairy. How can I avoid the curse? This time the pen drew on the paper for a long time. Looking at it, It was all meaningless symbols. Maybe the pen fairy had no way either. Gradually I lost patience and was about to tell Kobe to ask the pen fairy to return to its place. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the pencil in my hand suddenly drew vigorously, piercing the paper several times. What's going on? I couldn't help but be horrified. Kobe shushed me, indicating that I should not speak. The pen drew back and forth. Finally, it drew characters. I read them one by one. Radern. Teo. They. Booze. After reading, the pencil suddenly broke into two pieces. The broken end pierced my palm. In a panic, I quickly let go. But it was still a step too late. The palm was pierced and bright red blood flowed out. Kobe. Why is this so? The evil spirit is coming. The pen fairy can't defeat it and has left. As soon as the words fell, I suddenly felt goosebumps all over my body. Layer upon layer. My hair seemed to be blown up by the yin wind. But fortunately, this feeling only lasted for a few seconds. Kobe's expression was serious. He got up and said, "Let's go." "Where to?" I subconsciously asked. "Back to the bus." I opened my mouth wide. "Why? Don't you want to live?" Kobe had a profound look on his face. His voice was drawn out. "I don't not want to live. But there are so many people who died on the bus. Wouldn't the bus be full of ghosts? It's too terrifying to go to the bus in the middle of the night. Can we go when it's dawn?" I asked in a low voice. Kobe walked to my side, circled me a few times, and stared at me firmly. "What are you looking at?" I was annoyed. "Navy. Do you think the evil spirit will let you live until dawn?" At 2 o'clock in the morning, we arrived at the parking lot of Chuncheon Jade City. The bodies on the bus had been sent to the funeral home, but the bus was temporarily stored here. The security guard in the parking lot was dozing off. Kobe and I easily sneaked in. In the northwest corner of the parking lot, I found that tourist bus. I stood by the window and looked inside. It was pitch black inside. Kobe reached out to pull the door, but the door was locked and couldn't be opened. "What if we can't get in?" Kobe ignored me. He pushed the windows one by one. Finally, he found a window that wasn't fastened with a latch. He opened the window and whispered, "Navy, stand on my back and climb into the car." As soon as I heard this, I was not happy. "No, I'm timid. If I go in first, I'll be scared. You go in first and then I'll climb in." Staying outside is always safer than being in the bus. There always seemed to be something unknown stirring in that dark bus. I heard from the old people that if you feel an unexplained chill and your hair stands on end when you go to a certain place, there is no doubt that you have encountered something dirty. This was exactly how I felt at this moment. My scalp was numb. My back was cold. And my hair stood on end. Kobe stared at me again. Under the faint moonlight, his eyes looked even more transparent, as if there were no pupils. I thought he had white blood. The pupils of white people are lighter in color. After being rejected by me, Kobe didn't say anything more. He stepped on the wheel and climbed in through the window. "Navy, I'll pull you. Come up quickly." Kobe's voice had a hint of urgency. I responded. I was about to learn from Kobe and step on the wheel and climb in. But as soon as my hand touched the window, a flash of inspiration suddenly came to my mind and I suddenly realized one thing. I seemed to trust Kobe too much. Looking at the dark compartment, Kobe's figure was completely submerged in the darkness, becoming one and becoming mysterious. "Why haven't you come in yet?" Kobe's voice sounded like he was angry. "Is what we are doing really useful?" I asked in a low voice. I felt very strange. How did I come to the bus with Kobe? We won't know if it's useful until we do it. We have no other way. I hesitated. Perhaps I should wait for my parents to come back. They might have invited an expert to save me. At this time, Kobe sighed. "Okay, Navy. Don't come up then." After saying that, he sighed again. Then he said in a low voice, Navy. Please remember that I seem to have a crush on you. Instantly, I felt like being struck by lightning. I was so shocked that I couldn't move. What did you say? I might have heard wrong. Nothing. You said something. Say it again. I didn't say anything. Kobe turned and walked towards the inside of the compartment. In an instant, he disappeared into the darkness. I stood there savoring that sentence he said. I didn't hear wrong. He said that he seemed to have a crush on me. My face was hot. My ears were hot. My neck was hot. And my whole body was hot. Is this Kobe's confession to me? To be honest, I really like Kobe's type. With the bone structure of a white person, and the appearance of a yellow person. It has both a three-dimensional sense and soft lines. This is the first time a boy has said he likes me since I grew up. And it's said by a boy I like. My mind was suddenly heated. I whispered Kobe's name. Lifted one foot onto the window. Then lifted the other foot. The whole person was sitting on the window. Kobe. I'm coming. I was charmed by that sentence of Kobe's and jumped into the bus compartment. When my feet landed in the compartment, suddenly there was a bright light. The glaring light pressed towards me, but suddenly going from darkness to light. For a moment it seemed like I was blind. After about 10 seconds, my eyes returned to normal. Before I could react, an unkind reprimand came from my ear. I looked towards the source of the sound and saw the fierce female tour guide. The female tour guide put her hands on her hips and glared angrily. Go back to your seat, and fasten your seat belt. The tourists in the compartment were all looking at me. Maybe seeing the female tour guide scolding me like scolding a dog. There was a trace of sympathy on their faces. I turned a deaf ear. My line of sight slowly moved from the front of the bus. Looking for Kobe's figure. At the back of the bus, I saw Kobe. He was smiling at me. I couldn't help but grin and walked towards the back of the compartment. Then I sat in the seat in front of Kobe. Kobe. Nice to see you again. I never thought that one day I would live and die with a man. We are grasshoppers on the same rope. In an instant, I felt that I loved Kobe very much. It seemed that I could follow him desperately. Trust him. At this moment, I also understood that the wish of the evil spirit was to let me and Kobe travel back to the bus yesterday and complete this trip. Perhaps after completing the trip, the evil spirit will give up cursing us. The bus was driving on a narrow and rugged mountain road. In the distance, the mountains were layered one after another, stretching for hundreds of miles. A simple boundary marker quickly flashed past my eyes. But I had sharp eyes and immediately saw the words on the boundary marker. There were 3 characters engraved on the boundary marker. Ying Chong Ling. Ying Chong Ling is a must-pass on my way home. It is one of the mountains in the Wulyan Mountains, and also the highest mountain in the Wulyan Mountains, with an altitude of more than 100 meters. After crossing the Wulyan Mountains and entering the plain area, it would not be far from my home city, Mengai. At this time, there was a beep on my phone and a WeChat message came. It was sent by my roommate in the dormitory. Navy. There are still classes today. Why did you run away? Today is National Day. Are you confused? After sending the message, I suddenly found that the date displayed on my phone screen was September 30. Not October 1. Instantly, 2/3 of my soul was scared away. Returning to the bus. But it was not the tourist bus that departed on the 30th, but the bus that fell into the Grand Canyon. Kobe. Where in the Wulyan Mountains did the tourist bus that departed on the 29th fall into the Grand Canyon? I was extremely anxious. Kobe looked around and whispered, at Ying Chong Ling. This answer made me feel dizzy. Ying Chong Ling. The deadly Ying Chong Ling had arrived. It turned out that the real wish of the evil spirit was not to let us continue the unfinished journey, but to take our lives and complete our predestined fate. I looked at the time on my phone. The time when the bus fell into the Grand Canyon was around 9:30 am. Now it is 9:20 am. There are still 10 minutes. There was no time to say anything to Kobe. I shouted loudly towards the front of the bus. Driver. Stop. Stop the car. Everyone looked at me. But their eyes were a little disgusted. How would they know that if we drove forward, the bus would fall into the Grand Canyon? Don't shout and disturb others' rest. The female tour guide reprimanded me mercilessly. Stop. I need to use the toilet. I need to use the toilet. I made up an excuse of using the toilet. If you need to use the toilet, you can only endure it. There are black bears in the wild. What if you are eaten? The female tour guide gave me a displeased look. At this time, I knew that I had to speak up. Otherwise, the driver would not stop. I traveled from October 2nd. The bus we were on fell into the Grand Canyon at Yingchongling at 9:30 am on the 30th. Now we have reached Yingchongling. There are still 8 minutes until 9:30. If we don't stop, the bus will be destroyed and people will die. There will be no bones left. I tried to make it as terrifying as possible. But still no one paid attention. Everyone looked at me like looking at a fool. Some people even let out contemptuous laughter. It's true. You must believe me. I wouldn't joke about my life and everyone else's life. By the way, Kobe also traveled through time with me. If you don't believe me, ask him. I anxiously called Kobe, hoping he would explain to everyone with me. Kobe got up and walked towards the front of the compartment. Kobe, didn't you download the news about the bus falling into the Grand Canyon? Show it to them quickly. With video evidence. I'm not afraid that these people won't believe it. Kobe walked to my side. I was about to speak when he passed me and walked to the front of the bus. I saw him pick up the loudspeaker of the female tour guide on the first row seat and put it to his lips to cough and test the sound. I was a bit speechless. It was an emergency. He could just speak directly or take out the video. Why use the loudspeaker? It was really exasperating. Dear tourists, I am Xiao Mu, the tour guide of this tour group. It was like a thunderbolt exploding beside my ear. There was a buzzing in my ears. I didn't hear clearly what Kobe said later in bits and pieces. Kobe is the tour guide. Kobe is the tour guide. Kobe is the tour guide. These words kept ringing in my mind. At this time, no matter how stupid I was, I knew what was going on. Kobe was the male tour guide who committed suicide a few years ago. He was the evil spirit he mentioned. He had gone to great lengths, posting videos, invoking the pen fairy, and even using his charm, all just to deceive me onto the bus. Because I was the only tourist who left the group, Kobe wouldn't allow anyone to leave the group. He would find ways to kill anyone who left the group. No wonder I could only scroll to the videos he posted, and couldn't find any videos about the bus crash from official accounts or others. The destination of our trip is the 18th level of hell. First, we will go to the first level of hell, the pulling out tunnel, for sightseeing. For those who are alive in this world, if they sow discord, slander and harm others, have glib tongues, argue cleverly, and lie and deceive, after death, they will be sent to the pulling out tunnel. The little ghost pries open people's mouths, clamps the tongue with iron pliers, and pulls it out alive. It's not pulled out in one go, but is stretched and pulled slowly. Kobe eloquently introduced the situation of the first level of hell. His voice was extremely infectious and could be said to be full of emotion. Outside the window, the bus drove faster and faster. So fast that the cliffs and trees outside were only left with after images. Suddenly, the bus made a sharp turn. The front of the bus lost control and turned towards the guardrail on the side of the canyon. Instantly, the guardrail was broken. The bus quickly rolled and fell down. Inside the bus, there were cries and shouts and chaos. Dear tourists, we have arrived at the first destination of our trip, the first level of the pulling out tunnel. Please get off in turn and visit on your own. Also, I want to tell you that I am going to be reborn. See you in the next life. In Kobe's magnetic voice. The cold and fishy water in the canyon kissed my face. But the corners of my mouth gently revealed a smile. Task completed. Extra story. In the laboratory, A handsome man was lying on a treatment bed. There were many electrode patches fixed on his head, chest, and limbs. Perhaps because he had been in a coma for a long time and was not stained by worldly affairs and not bothered by daily necessities. He maintained the appearance of a man in his 20s. Several doctors wearing masks were surrounding the treatment bed. They were nervously studying the data on the computer screen. These data were the man's brainwave data, including the man's thoughts, memories, emotional fluctuations, and so on. The man's hand outside the bedding was moving slightly. Once, twice, 3 times. When it reached the 10th time, his hand trembled violently like being shocked by electricity, and his eyes opened. But perhaps because the light was too strong, the man quickly closed his eyes again. This situation was immediately noticed by the doctors. They excitedly called the man's name. In the affectionate and eager calls, the man opened his eyes again. But his eyes were very blank. Obviously, his consciousness was not yet clear. It wasn't until more than half an hour later that he looked at the ceiling and muttered to himself, I was reborn." The several doctors looked at each other. One of the doctors pulled down the mask on her face, revealing a beautiful face. "Kobe, you didn't get reborn. You woke up. Congratulations on defeating death." The speaker was a young female doctor. She applauded warmly. The other doctors also followed and applauded to congratulate Kobe on his new life. Kobe seemed not to hear the thunderous applause. His gaze was fixed on the female doctor's face. You look familiar." Kobe, who had just woken up, was very weak. A few words needed to be said separately and very slowly. Even the pronunciation was unclear. The female doctor held Kobe's hand and smiled. "Because my name is Navy." "Navy." Kobe whispered her name. But he couldn't remember. "It doesn't matter if you can't remember. Do you know who you are?" Navy looked at him gently. "Kobe is a tour guide. A few years ago, because he led a low-cost shopping tour group, as soon as the tourists arrived at the destination, they left the group. The travel agency he worked for asked him to bear the loss by himself. But Kobe, who was from a poor family, couldn't afford to compensate. So he chose to commit suicide. After rescue, Kobe's life was saved. But he became a vegetative state. Navy is a medical master's student. During her internship at the hospital, she met Kobe's elderly parents pushing a cart and taking him to see a doctor. Pitiful parents all over the world. Navy couldn't help feeling pity. She also had a sudden inspiration, and took Kobe as the direction of her research topic to study how to effectively wake up vegetative patients. Vegetative patients have damaged cerebral cortex and have no perception, consciousness, memory, or thinking. There is no advanced neural activity. So it is necessary to stimulate the patient's brain nerves to make the patient restore advanced neural activity. But Kobe obviously didn't meet these criteria for vegetative patients. His advanced brain nerves were very excited but had no response to external stimuli. Navy believed that there was an extremely strong obsession in Kobe's brain that made him unwilling to wake up. So as long as we know what Kobe's obsession is, it will be much easier to wake Kobe up. Navy conducted experiments for more than a year. But Kobe was still in a deep coma. So much so that her classmates advised Navy to give up this topic. Even her tutor advised her to change directions. But out of sympathy for Kobe, and to help more vegetative patients and their families, Navy decided to continue the experiment. After repeated exploration and research, Navy adopted a new treatment method. This method was to connect her own brain waves with Kobe's brain waves in series and let herself enter Kobe's consciousness to understand his obsession. Only then did she know that in Kobe's consciousness, he had always held a deep resentment towards tourists leaving the group and was also thinking of revenge. So he formed a consciousness world controlled by him in his brain. In this consciousness world, he created a curse that those who leave the group will surely die. To take revenge on those who leave the group. Because of his shy personality, he thought that the reason for tourists leaving the group was also related to his personality. So he created an overbearing female tour guide with his consciousness. This female tour guide could be said to be another personality of Kobe. Two personalities can exist at the same time. One plays the bad guy and the other plays the good guy. But also because of the strong consciousness world constructed by Kobe. He had no response to external stimuli and was even unwilling to wake up. He was always immersed in the obsession of revenge. Kobe once said, "Satisfying the wish of the evil spirit will resolve the curse." Then Kobe's wish is to kill all tourists who leave the group. Only when Navy enters the game and satisfies his wish can his obsession with revenge disappear. After Navy left the group and was killed again and again for a total of 99 times, Kobe said contentedly that he was going to be reborn. This sentence meant that he had let go of his obsession and his wish was fulfilled. When there was no longer the solid wall of consciousness, Kobe's body gradually responded to external neural and electrical stimuli. Eventually, he woke up successfully. "I remember. We met in a dream." Kobe chuckled.